We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the November 21st meeting of the Lee Select Board. First item of business are the open session minutes of November 7th, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the open session minutes of November 7th, 2023 as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, public comment. Kathy.
Good evening, Kathy Hall, and I was told I could only have 10 minutes. Okay, but I've tweaked it a little bit for tonight. So, the Lee Youth Commission is sponsoring its second Saturday gym nights at Crossways on December 9th from 5:30 to 7. And this Saturday's event is obstacle course racing. So aspiring all ninja warriors, be ready to leap, crawl, climb, balance, bounce, and have fun. I guess that leaves me out, so it's okay.
I think you'd lead the way.
On another note, there have been concerns posted on Facebook about drivers speeding on various streets in Lee. And the person that started the post asked me if I would mention it at tonight's meeting. And so I've done that, and she continues with a huge shout out goes to the Lee Police Department for their quick response to those concerns and by upping their presence on residential roads and giving out tickets to those who violate or ignore posted speed signs. Another shout out goes to the Lee Department of Public Works for taking care of the speed sign at the golf course. The person didn't know if it was a new sign or if it had fallen and they had to repair it. But at any rate, everybody's doing a good job to make sure everybody's safe on our streets. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Sure.
Thank you.
You probably have about 7 more minutes if you have anything else you want to do up there.
Very good. Any other further comment, public comment? Moving on to general business, we have a presentation from CTSB.
Good evening, Lee Select Board. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Richard Frederick. I'm the Executive Director for Community Television for the Southern Berkshires, CTSB. And I just have a short presentation tonight regarding the future of CTSB, declining cable subscriptions, and pending legislation. And I'm calling this the future of CTSB because I think some of these things are maybe 2 to 3 years out, and I want to get ahead of, and I want to come to the select board at the last minute and say that we're having funding issues or anything like that. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve here. I'm going to start out with just quickly talking about the importance of CTSB. CTSB serves Lee, Lenox, Stockbridge, Great Barrington, and Sheffield. Our 3 cable TV channels, 1301, 1302, and 1303, are funded by roughly 6,500 subscribers here in the 5 towns. CTSB records and broadcasts town and school board meetings, community events, sports, parades, the Fall Festival of Shakespeare, which we just wrapped up on Sunday, and so much more. CTSB also serves vulnerable and marginalized populations in our community, such as the elderly, students with disabilities, and non-English speaking communities. We are a vital service to your community. CTSB provides the community a voice on such important issues, such as the PCB contamination issue that we're going through right now. So why now? Why are things going to change in our funding model now? Well, it's because of a technology shift, right? We all know how fast things change, computers and television and streaming and all that stuff. So technology is now changing the way we view television. Streaming video is replacing traditional cable TV boxes along with CTSB's current funding model. CTSB will suffer drastic funding losses now that Spectrum has made the Xumo box available. Xumo box is very much like your Roku box at home, except for you view your cable TV over it, along with Netflix and Disney and such things, and we would not receive funding from internet viewing, streaming. Because of this box, it'll severely impact our services eventually as cable subscriptions dwindle. So Massachusetts is proposing a 5% streaming tax legislation on companies like Disney, Hulu, Netflix, and Spectrum to support community television. Senate Bill 34 and House Bill 74 needs to be passed by February of 2024. This act is called an Act to Modernize Funding for Community Media Programming. Now, back in June, there was testimony on Beacon Hill for this proposed legislation, and it's viewable on our website. It's about 3 hours of testimony, and they heard from people like myself, directors for community TV stations, and also the organizations that represent us on public policy, such as the Alliance for Community Media. And the president, Mike Wassenaar of the Alliance for Community Media, I felt had the most powerful statement of the day during the testimony. And Mike Wassenaar said, quote, "If this bill is not signed into law, we will be back in 2 years to discuss closures and layoffs." So I thought that was pretty powerful. That's coming from the people that represent us. So why am I here tonight? I'm here tonight because I'm asking for your support and the community's support. We need everyone's support to continue offering full CTSB services to your community. We're only a staff of 4 people. We have 3 channels that broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If we were to lose 1 employee, it would be devastating to us. So what we're asking for is the town and residents to send letters to federal, state, and federal representatives expressing your concern and support for Massachusetts Bill S34 and H74. I have copies of letters that can go out to William Smitty Pignatelli. I have pre-made letters for Richard Neal, Tricia Farley Bouvier, Paul Mark, and Governor Maura Healey. All these letters just need to be signed and dated and sent off to their offices, and I feel if we can fill their offices with enough letters and let them know that the community supports community television funding moving forward. So these letters really should be sent probably no later than November or December, and I'll continue to keep our select boards and towns up to date on legislation. There's other legislation in the works for us and against us, federal and state. So I will keep you up to date on that. And lastly, I want to just say the municipalities also stand to benefit from this legislation as well, because the municipalities would receive 2/5 of the funding, community access stations would receive 2/5, and the last 1/5 would go to the state general fund. So many reasons to support this legislation, and I will leave some of the copies of the letters here, and if anyone at home needs a copy, they can call me at CTSB 413-243-8211, and I can email you a copy, mail you a copy, or you can stop into our studio and sign and date the letter, and we'll even mail it out for you. So I will leave a few of these here tonight, and if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple copies. I see you're bringing copies. A couple of questions. First of all, yeah, I am totally in support of trying to keep the community access. I think funded. I think that's the only way that we really, as citizens, can move forward. And I did have some questions about this Zumo streaming box that you're talking about with Spectrum. Is there no way to have them continue to take the community access channels on there and be able to, utilize that?
As far as I know, there's really no dialogue between us and them. We're still going through our contract negotiations that started back in March. They have not. They really won't say if we're going to be available on that Zumo box. I'm assuming we're not going to be, because if we were, they would have to have logos and information from us, and so I believe we will not be part of that.
Well, that was my other issue, is your contract. I know that you're still in contract negotiations, and I would certainly think that that's one of the strongest things you can push, is to make sure that they continue to have that available, because I assume this means if I want to get rid of my cable, I can get rid of cable, and that this Zumo box just ties in through the internet.
Right.
I can save a substantial amount of money.
Right.
If I don't want to watch certain things that they get, you know. I know that they're famous for having 3 channels all having the exact same programming. And so what's the use anyway? You know, it's a pretty bad system that Spectrum has set up, I believe.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's really all my comments, is just I hope whoever's negotiating these contracts really pushes this issue.
Yeah.
And as best you can. I know it's a tough deal when I watched some of your negotiations.
Yeah, it's being negotiated by the 5-town Cable Advisory Commission, and they're a
Yes.
great group, but we can't negotiate anything with the internet. It's we
I
receive
get it.
5% of cable subscribers' bills,
Yeah.
and that's it for the next 10 years. So do we, that 6,500 subscribers, how low does that get at year 2, 3, 4, 5 as these Zumo boxes come out?
Yeah.
So that's unknown, but it is coming, and I think fortunately we live in a more affluent community, but the cities and the towns with the younger populations are seeing drastic cuts because
Sure.
people know that they can get what they want through streaming and avoid a cable bill. So it's definitely changing. I think we're just behind a little bit on that change.
John, do you have
No questions. I just hope to maintain the community television as best we can. I think it's an important service for people. I use it a bunch, just going on and checking out other meetings, and we've got, this is how we get out to the people, so it's very important to us. So
Government transparency, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have, I subscribe to Spectrum, I get 14 channels or whatever, but I don't have a cable per se, I stream Spectrum. They aren't under any obligation at all to carry public television?
No, it's not. It's all kind of part of the Cable Act of 1984, and we're really due for some new legislation such as that regarding the internet. But to date, it's really been hands off the internet. It's not even really a part of our discussion at all.
Okay, well, I'll echo Sean and Gordon. We certainly want to support CTSB and public television and do what we can do to help you.
Great. I thank you for your support.
Sure. I can't believe we're still working on a 1984
Yeah.
legislation.
Yeah.
That is so antiquated.
Exactly.
I mean, look at how everything has changed, your cars, your appliances, I mean, everything is so different than 1984. But it doesn't surprise me that the government sat on their hands, because these cable industries are huge donors. You know, it's always about the money, whether it's going in or coming out, either way.
Right, and I just wanted to lastly say too, it's these companies who are making billions on streaming, they're streaming across your front lawn
Yeah.
on wires and poles on your property, public
Yeah.
and private lands.
Right. Well, I think this is also a good time to remind people that we have 3 open seats
On the Cable Advisory,
Cable
right,
Advisory
yeah.
Committee, and maybe if people are hearing what's going on, maybe we'll actually get somebody to volunteer. I know I've reached out to several people, and nobody seems to want to get involved, which is unfortunate, because, most everybody's tied to their TV in one way or another, whether it's through public TV or streaming or whatever we do. It seems like a huge part of everybody's life, but nobody wants to participate, which is unfortunate.
Right. Well, we hope to be here for years to come because we really
Yeah.
love our towns.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
with
Thank
that,
you.
I would make a motion that we sign off on these letters and get them in the mail ASAP.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on. Discussion about a PCB technical consultant. Chris, do you want to sort of give folks an overview of what we've been through to?
Yeah, so we've been through kind of a lengthy process of looking for PCB technical consultants as the river cleanup continues. So we started with a lot of different companies, took out all of the ones that we knew were already involved, which was quite a few companies that were already involved in some way, shape, or form with either GE, EPA, another community, etc. And then kind of went through all of the companies that met all of our criteria. They've dealt with hazardous waste material, transportation, environmental consulting, permits, monitoring, et cetera. And then from there, each of the companies we reached out to went further to see if they were doing any other work on a different project that GE was involved with. So through that process, we've kind of got it down to 2 companies, which we have presentations, or rather qualification packets from, which is Kleinfelder and Limno Tech. They both, neither company has any conflict with either GE or the EPA, and they both meet all of the requirements we're looking for, dealing with landfills and hazardous waste, again, transportation, monitoring, environmental, et cetera.
I guess, have we all had time to read the?
I have.
Did we have time? Yeah, I guess what came up for me first was, being an old school kind of guy. One company's in Washington DC, the other has an office in, I think, Springfield or Northampton.
Yeah.
And that made a difference to me, because the idea of having somebody on the ground here without having to get on a plane may have an impact on the cost. As far as the effectiveness of one versus the other, they seem to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. But any thoughts from either of you?
I had a similar feeling, actually. I think this project probably could be, this consultant probably could be effective working out of Washington, but it might just, help us all out to have somebody more local. That might just work better for us, as a town, and having them more actively involved. But I don't feel strongly one way or another if somebody had a strong feeling that they wanted to go with Limno, who's not so local, but certainly very qualified and able to do this. They've got some experience working with PFAS, right? Not necessarily PCBs, but there's some similarities there, and that's kind of my initial thoughts. If we wanted to act one way or another, I'm certainly open to however you guys feel.
I guess the other thing just that I meant to mention, and that is, I guess I'm a little concerned, and maybe I'm off base, completely off base, but my concern was that we have somebody, if there's something on the site, should the site come to be into being, somebody who can go there and actually have hands-on, eyes on the site. And the idea of having any company simply reviewing facts and figures handed to them by GE, who are the contractors. I mean, GE's not going to hand them anything that's going to be untoward or bad, So if you're just if you're just evaluating GE's reports, are we really, is Lee really benefiting from that?
Yeah. No, I agree. And in reviewing these, I think we're talking about Kleinfelder is the one with the close contact. And looking at it, I noticed that their responses were very pointedly aiming at PCB issues, whereas the other company really was more water. Like if we had a major water problem issue here, I think they would be like really on top of things. At this moment in time, I especially liked the fact they gave us their individuals who would be involved in the project as far as their principal in charge and the different engineering, their background, the engineers, their background, some of their projects that were based on PCB issues. And I was impressed with that, whereas the others maybe weren't quite so focused. And I think at this moment in time, I really think that Kleinfelder would be probably our best bet for our community to work with.
Yeah, I agree, and I think just to expand on that, Kleinfelder's portfolio is a local one, and that kind of speaks to what they're not I don't remember, maybe I'm wrong, but it didn't seem like they had a PCB project per se that they were citing here, but I could be wrong about that. But they've definitely have a lot of brownfield and hazardous sites within local communities around us, so.
They did mention one
Yeah.
PCB in there.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, they did on their cover page. And then also on the second page, they have a photo of exterior excavation of PCB impacted soils. And so, I mean, at least the other company really didn't mention anything quite as on point
Right.
as Kleinfelder, so I guess that's what I was impressed with when I read it. They seem to be pretty much on point for what we were looking for.
In the short term, a lot of it will be reviewing
Yeah.
documents, but in the long term, the information we sent out to all the companies, and again, this was a pretty large field, and as you
Yeah.
whittle down ones, again, there are so many projects that GE is involved with around. We were very, we were very strict that we didn't want any companies that were doing any projects related to GE that would present any conflict. So it was a lengthy process, but long-term, the expectation is we hope that to develop a QAP where they can come and do monitoring for the top of the lead. Exactly what that will look like, whether it's how those samples are acquired by us, will depend on a number of circumstances, but we're going to try to make it as centered around the well-being of Lee. We do that, so.
Well, I think that while you're saying we sent things out, we communicate, I think that the public should know, I mean, we made contact with 10 different firms. And I think people need to understand that we did reach out to 10 different firms, 8 of whom either didn't respond or already had, like as you said, some conflicts, so.
And that was after we eliminated all the ones
Yeah.
that we knew were already.
Right, ones we weren't sure
should
of.
consider all those too,
Yeah.
so like SKIO already works for EPA.
Right.
Another company is doing some work for Lennox, another company is been working for GE on another project, so we had some, Arcadis is their, so we took those off, right off the bat, so.
Well, do you want a motion?
Yeah, I was just gonna
This
say-
isn't like a 20-year contract, right? I mean, this is just looking into trying to negotiate at least a 1 year, I would think. Something
Right, yep,
to get going.
and the plan would, now we have some money that the board had allocated earlier towards the rest of River. We have some remaining funds from that'll get us to the end of this fiscal year, and then on the town meeting warrant, we would appropriate money moving
Gotcha.
forward, so.
Okay.
We'll entertain a motion to go with Kleinfelder.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we hire Kleinfelder as our consultant, as our PCB technical consultant.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
And thanks to everybody, all the great proposals that we did see, not just these
Yeah.
2, but the other 10. Thanks for.
And thank you to all the people locally and regionally who made suggestions as well. We had a good field to consider. Moving on to any topic the chair could not anticipate. Sean, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, we met, just give an update on the master plan and where we're at. We met yesterday. We did pass our final drafts for 2 sections, the historic and cultural and the municipal utility sections of the document. So we're making progress. Last night we had a very productive meeting. They're not always that productive, so we're hoping to kind of keep the momentum going. And yeah, I think we're trying to stay on track for January.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Also, as part of that, the open space and recreation plan is kind of in the final stages as well. So that'll be submitted to the state, and ultimately an aspect of that will be included in the master plan as well. So that's kind of where we're at with all of that. And again, there'll be a final hearing with the planning board, and the public and anyone will have a chance to input their comments and make suggestions. So welcome everybody to be a part of that process, and you're always welcome to come to our public meetings. They're posted on the town website, and the master plan's meeting every other week at this point. So in another 2 weeks, we'll have another meeting, and yeah, keep going.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to the committee, Sean, and thank you personally for all your efforts in making it happen. That's great. Gordon, do you have anything?
I do not, sir.
I've just got a couple things. We received a letter from Chief DeSantis, report on the torch run for the Special Olympics, which was held on November 12th. And the Lee Police Department was involved, the Lee Fire Department, and various other members. Anyway, they raised $9,000 for the Special Olympics, and I wanted to thank Chief DeSantis and Chief Brown for their efforts and their team's efforts, and it sounds like it's a real success. And one last thing, I just wanted to announce that we had a meeting this morning with Rest of the River, and Rest of the River will die, the committee will die a natural death on December 6th. They will not continue. And it was voted to release a fair amount of the executive session minutes, but those minutes that involve attorney-client privilege, the client being 5 towns, that decision will go to the 5 select boards. So we might consider at some point after the holidays or whatever to write a letter requesting that, but we'll have a discussion of that in open meeting.
Great.
All right. And that's all I have. Chris, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple quick updates. I did want to thank police and fire as well as the DPW for a successful open house that they had last week. So we appreciate them taking the time to do that. We had a number of people come and tour the facilities in preparation for our town meeting, which was my next thing. December 6th has been posted. So we are official for December 6th at 7 o'clock at the high school for a special town meeting. The main item, of course, being the public safety building. We do have land purchase for Stockbridge Road on there, some zoning articles, and a couple housekeeping articles. Also, we did submit, I just wanted to let the board know, we submitted the paperwork today for additional funding to complete the bike path design. So hopefully that's gone to the state. So hopefully we'll hear back on that in a few months, and that should bridge the gap to get that design finished. Construction is already funded through the TIP, so it's just a little funding gap that we're working on. So, but that's all done. And then lastly, just a quick EPA update. They did say they were wrapping up their sampling for the season at Woods Pond, and then the only other thing happening fall and into winter was finishing the fence around the UDF's proposed site. And lastly, November 28th, just a reminder that we have the meeting 6:30 to 8:30 at the high school auditorium with EPA and the GE for the transportation plan. All of the information is on the website, including the transportation plan, and in the Selectmen's page, there's a Rest of River link, which has everything that the town submitted, all of the plans that have been submitted to us, and all the details on the both preliminary plans for UDF and transportation. So.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask that?
Gordon, please.
Yes, Chris, there's been I've gotten a couple of phone calls. There's some confusion about exactly what December 6th meeting is about. Some people think, oh, if it's voted, then it's good to go, or, they don't understand impact on tax rate. And, there's a lot of those questions. And I think, number one, we need to stress to people, this is a meeting to discuss this. And hopefully people want us to go forward, because there still has to be a vote by the entire town.
Correct.
Whatever we do on December 6th if it's approved, doesn't mean that it's an automatic. Anything that needs a tax override means that the general public, other than just that one meeting, so there's 2 bites at that apple. If they want to let it go forward while they get more information, then they can make up their mind further down the road if they want to allow us to go forward with that. And then we can have maybe more information about impact on tax rates and again, stress that we're still going to be applying for grants and other monies that may help offset the cost.
Yep, and there is all of that. We did post online too, including a summary which explains most of that. So if anyone from the public is looking right on the news section, there's a picture of a gavel, and if you click there, in addition to the warrant, there's a summary which explains that part as well, and the entire feasibility study is up there. But as you mentioned, Gordon, this is step one, but it's not the only step. So if it gets 2/3 vote at town meeting, then it will go to referendum. In either, we have to see what's available for, would either be at the March presidential primary election or the next town election in May. It would go to a townwide vote, so a 2-step process. The other articles, though, are all binding that night. So we have the land purchase on Stockbridge Road. That will be settled that night, and then the zoning articles as well, pending AG approval. But
So the funding on those other issues don't have to go for an override.
Right. Yeah,
That's why they're binding.
Yeah, the only one, the funding there is, the main one for Stockbridge Road is through CPA.
Right.
So.
And will that need a separate town meeting, or this is this town meeting?
That's it,
It's appropriate,
yeah.
okay, I wanted to make sure I understood that too.
And that won't hit the taxes either, because
Yeah.
you've already paid those taxes.
Right,
So
so
the
that-
money's sitting there waiting for us to do something with.
Okay.
So this would be our first CPA proposal since the surcharge was started a couple of years ago.
I think also that tonight, and then again at the meeting, we have to make sure that we underscore those who say they're in the dark and don't know anything about it, has been on CTSB or other meetings about this, and also that they keep saying, oh, well, there's this idea and that idea, and they need to understand that 14 sites were looked at, 14 different options, including trying to rebuild the EMS building in that whole area, and that's already been looked at and discarded as not being feasible for the fire department. And a lot of people just don't understand how much work has gone into this already, and I think that needs to be underscored that night. And Route 102, they're still asking about other things, which is, they need to know. We need to have that information available and pointed out that night in the discussions.
And again, that whole study is online as well. But we did send a letter with tax bills. And the two things, we did mention the special town meeting in that. But the big thing that I to stress to everyone is if you're not getting the information, I mean, we do. There has been articles in the paper.
Yes.
We do have it on the website. We've posted the warrants, all that sort of thing. But the best, it's been on CTSB. But the best thing to do is whenever we put a news item up or whenever we post a town meeting, an e-blast goes out. If you go to the town website at the top right-hand corner and click subscribe and subscribe to those alerts, whenever we post something like that, you'll get an email about it.
Okay.
So anybody who's done that, and that was in the letter too, there's quite a few subscribers. Anyone who's done that should have received a link to the warrant,
Great.
to the summary, to the feasibility study, everything that's there. So, and I know a lot of people get a lot of emails and a lot of, junk mail, but that is the best way to stay connected. And the good part, it's not advertising we have to pay extra for. So,
Now, do you red flag those? I've gotten some within the government, mass government, that some may come with a high degree of importance, and I don't know if the town does that or participates, or if people even pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I just think it's bogus.
It's through Civic Plus, so
Okay.
I know it gets out to people. We don't have the ability to
Okay.
call it a priority.
Sure.
At least as far as I know, but,
Okay.
but it also, in an urgent alert, whenever we have a snow emergency or a water break, those are all going out through there too now, so, so it's a good thing to subscribe to.
Okay, sounds great.
In addition to what Gordon and Chris just covered, we had a informational hearing a couple weeks ago to discuss in detail the proposed facility, and we also had open houses at Town Hall and at the DPW. So the information has been out there, it's accessible now, and so there's no excuse for not knowing if you want to know. But,
That's true.
But, to sum it up, November 28th, 6:30 PM at the high school auditorium, a meeting with GE, the EPA, and any interested townspeople. It's open. I expect there'll be people there from Stockbridge and Lennox as well. And then on December 6th at 7 PM at the high school auditorium, we're going to have the special town meeting. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, December 5th, 7 PM right here. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.